Hey guys, Dr. Deuce here again, welcome back. Now today we're continuing our journey of discovery, comparing Ableton Live and Logic Pro X. So far we've had a brief overview of the screen layouts in both platforms, and today we're going to be focusing on MIDI production in both platforms. Now for those of you who've missed the first episode, please check the link above. Otherwise, let's get started. Okay, so what we're looking at here right now is my default layout or template for Ableton Live. Later on, I'll show you how to set and save your own templates with your own setups, but this is sort of the standard one that comes with Ableton when you first create a new live project. We start with 2 MIDI tracks, 2 audio tracks, 2 auxiliary tracks, and your master stereo track. Now the first thing we need to do is make sure that our audio interface and our MIDI interface are both set up. Now some of you might well be using just a mouse to program your parts in, then that's fine, you don't need to worry about the MIDI part, but certainly if you're using any sort of MIDI controller device such as a MIDI keyboard or a Push or Launchpad Pro, you will need to do this. So let's go into that. Click Live, Preferences. So as you can see right here, I haven't got an audio device set up, and all I really need is an output device. I'm not recording any audio in today, so I'm just going to set up here. I'm going to click there and I'm going to go through all of the options, and the laptop I'm working on right now, I've got a line 6 audio interface connected there, and all of the parameters that are set here right now are fine. Again, I need to set up a control surface or an input device, and the keyboard I'm using is this keyboard right here. That's it, done. If I was to press the keyboard now, you'll see up here there's a trigger going on right there. We'll test out the audio now. So let's just, we're on sounds at the moment in the categories list. If I was to click on this, right, you should hear that sound. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do now is set my tempo. I'm going to start with a tempo of about 100 BPM. So I'm going to click there and drag down to there, 100. I'm going to switch my metronome on, and the count-in is going to be a 1-bar count-in. Everything else looks good. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to browse for a piano sound. I want to start with a piano sound. I'm going to play some chords. So I'm just going to type piano. Oh, first things first, you click on sounds. Now if we click here, we can just audition all of these. Alright, so I've already gone through this and I know exactly which one I want, and the one I wanted is a grand piano, which is this one right here. Okay, unfortunately there's only one grand piano available in the stock instruments. Now that I've found the sound that I want to work with, there are a number of ways of getting that into my MIDI tracks. So first of all, I can select that and then I can double click and it will load up into the track that I've selected. Let's undo that. Another way of doing it is to drag and drop into the title bar at the top. That's cool. And another way of doing it is to simply drag it and drop it over here. So if for example you'd run out of MIDI tracks, you create a new one like that. I'm going to stick with this option here, and I'm going to click, hold, drag and drop this over here. So so the first track is my grand piano. I'm going to just play back the metronome so you can hear the tempo that we're working at. Now at the moment the metronome is quite loud, and the way to reduce the volume of the metronome is down here in this corner. You grab this and you turn this, and this is the volume of the metronome. I'll play it back. Okay, so I've got my piano sound and I'm ready to go. Now this bit of information here is really important, and once you get this, Ableton is going to be an absolute breeze for you. Now you can see all of these boxes on the screen. Let's take for example the grand piano track, and we've got this box here. Now each of these boxes are spaces where you can record short MIDI clips. They're like containers, and you can switch them on and off at different intervals throughout your production and synchronize them with other clips recorded. Now we can record grand piano MIDI clips along this track, and then if we had, say, a bass synth here, we could record bass synths into these boxes here, and then audio, maybe a guitar part could go into these boxes down here. So let me just do it, and then it will make sense to you as we go along. So to start off with, we're going to click this circle right at the end here to record into this clip, and we get a 1 bar count in, and then we're good to go. Okay, so my piano part has been recorded and it sits in this container here, which is my first MIDI clip. If I was to double click on that, I'll open up and we'll be able to see all the MIDI notes. By hitting the fold button, you'll actually be able to remove all of the notes that have not been played and display only the notes that have been played, which is kind of cool. Down here, you need to make sure this is on. This is your audition button, so you can hear the actual notes. So now I'm not going to quantize this. I want to keep it nice and loose, just to give that sort of human feel. And that's one of the things I always encourage my students, is that, okay, it's great to be able to knock out your beats using the mouse pointer, but if you learn to play, especially the keyboard, you'll be able to add a bit more emotion into your productions. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, moving on. Now to close this window, we can click this button down here, and now we're going to enter our next part, which I think I'm going to put in some drums next. I'm going to be using Ableton's stock sounds, and they've got some pretty decent ones, to be honest with you. So I'm going to go to drums right here, and as you can see, nothing is showing up. Now what you need to do is make sure, if you search for something before, you need to clear this box, because what's happening, Live is searching for a piano and drums. So we're going to click this to clear that, and now we've got all our drums here, and these are all sort of drum sets. Let's click on this one. So what you're hearing are the sort of core elements in the drum kit. I'm just going to go with the first one. The 606 is a representation of the Roland TR-606. Okay. Yep, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to select this MIDI track here, and I'm going to double click on it so it loads up into that track. Okay, so now what we've got down here is all of the cells or the pads where all of the drums reside. So if I was to press here, I'll be able to audition the different sounds in this drum kit. And over here are the waveforms for the different samples. So if I was to click on the tom here, and this is one of the powerful features of Ableton. I've been able to quickly load up a drum kit, and instantly I can access all of the parameters for each individual drum sample. And that is really quite powerful. I can apply filters, an envelope, tuning, everything I would want to do with an individual drum sample is instantly at my fingertips. Now that is something that at this stage, I'll definitely say trumps Logic's way of doing things. Of course you can do it in Logic, but this is a far more efficient and actually preferable way of doing things. So we've got 16 pads here. You can add more samples and extend the range of sounds up and down on this kit, but right here this is sort of the default position, so that's C1 position. So what I'm going to do now is record my drum pattern and then move on. Okay, so that's the first part down. And next thing I want to do is add some claps. So I'm just going to go up here again and I'm going to search clap. Okay, and under drums, we're just going to hit that down arrow. I'm going to go to claps, and here it will be claps. Yeah, and I'm going to use this 707 hand clap. And now what I want to do, I actually want to bring this hand clap into this, into my 606 kit. Now, I'm going to just search through and figure out which drum sound I'm not likely to use. I'm not going to use that. So I'm just going to grab this and just real simple, drag, drop, and it's in. It's an absolute breeze to modify and create drum kits, you know, so I love this feature in Ableton. I'm going to record the claps or overdub them into this actual clip here. To do that, now that we don't have a circle anymore, we come up here and this is the overdub switch or button. We're going to click on that and then we get our count in, and let's go. A little bit loose there. I'm going to tighten these up with quantize, so double click here. To move up and down, I move over here and you can see the mouse pointer changes with that sort of hand and circle. You click and you drag up or down to reveal above or below, and those are my claps there. I'm just going to click on that to select all of those, and then I'm going to use the quantize shortcut, which is Command U. I think we've got it. You notice that I haven't selected everything, just the claps I've quantized. Another thing you can do is if you right click, you'll get this dialog box or window come up, and you can set your quantize settings by going in here. I'm on 1/16 quantized. You can change that in there to different values. Okay, so that's cool. Okay, so it's time for my kick drum. Let's go. Okay, so now that I've put down the kick drum, I can hear the toms are slightly out of time. I'm just going to quantize everything. So select all, Command A or Control A if you're on a PC, and then Control or Command U to quantize. So that's everything quantized. Okay, that's great. Now I'm going to put down the hi-hats. Again, I'm going to quantize everything. So now what I want to do is adjust some of the volumes of the individual parts. There are a number of ways of doing it, but I'm just going to do it here. Click on this little arrow right here, and you've got access to all of the parameters. So now it's time for that melody line. I'll just put that down. That's cool. I'm just going to quantize again. Command A, Command U. I'm not going to be focusing so much on audio effects or MIDI effects or any of that sort of thing for now. It's just about showing you how to get the stuff down. Let's move over to Logic, recreate something like this. Okay, so far we've created a very basic 4-bar production in Ableton using 3 simple instruments. We're going to do the same in Logic and try and find similar instruments and replicate the production. Now, when you create a new project in Logic, you have to decide on what type of track you want to start off with. We're going to start off with a software instrument track, and we're going to leave the instrument as vintage electric piano for now and create. I'm going to come to electric piano and I'm going to change that to no plugin. And now we have all of our instrument categories over here. And there are a lot of instruments to choose from. I'm going to go straight for piano. And as you can see right here, we've got quite a number of acoustic or grand pianos that we can select. In Ableton, there was only one real decent grand, whereas here there are a lot. So I'm going to go straight for the Yamaha grand piano, which sounds like this. Now with Logic, because it runs on a Mac, most of the time if you connect a MIDI device or an audio device, Logic automatically sees that device and asks you whether or not you want to use it as your default. However, if you're finding that you need to set up your audio interface because it hasn't been recognized, then all you need to do is go to Logic Pro X up in the corner here, Preferences, Audio, and then in this box under Output Device, you click here and you choose from the options in that box, and of course you can do the same with the input device. With USB MIDI keyboards, Logic automatically picks it up, so that shouldn't be a problem for you. And I'm going to set my tempo. I'm going to double click here and type in 100 just to match what we did in Ableton. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I'm working on a 4-bar basis. Our production is just going to be 4 bars for now. We're just going to click in this sort of slightly lighter grey cycle range, and that automatically switches on the cycle loop function. So now Logic will loop around in 4 bars, and I'm just going to lay down my piano part. Now, one of the shining features you'd find in Logic is the range of key commands you can use to get around and speed up your production process. And although Ableton has got its own set of key commands, Logic has a lot more single stroke key commands. So for example, holding down the command key and pressing U in order to quantize. In Logic, it's simply a single keystroke Q, and that will quantize. To record in Logic, again, it's a single keystroke, which is R. And that's what we're going to do now. We're just going to press R on the keyboard. We'll then have a 1-bar count in, and then we'll start recording. Double click and we open up the part. The quantize value is set to 1/16, so I'm just going to hit Q here, or I could use the keyboard shortcut, and now that first chord is on point. Now that's the only chord I'm going to quantize. To close this window, key command is E. Now it's time for me to put down my drum part. So the first thing we want to do is create a new software instrument. I'm going to hit the plus here and choose software instrument and create. Now there are a multitude of ways of laying down or finding drums in Logic, and there are so many drums and drum kits to choose from. The way I'm going to do it today is, however, I'm going to go to instrument right here, and I'm going to choose from the list Ultrabeat drum synth. Now this is Logic's legendary drum synth, which goes back to, I think, version 8 of Logic Pro. Not much, I don't think much has been done in terms of updating it, and it looks quite complicated and it is quite cumbersome. I've said this before in other tutorials. Just looking at the way other developers such as Ableton have gone about doing things, and maybe giving this a revamp. Anyway, I'm going to select from here drum kits, and the kit I want is the classic hip hop remix kit. Okay, if we come up here to region and we click this down arrow, we're going to choose the quantized value of 1/16, and now this has now been quantized to 1/16. Now what I'm going to do is lay down some claps, and the clap sound that's actually in this classic hip hop remix kit I'm quite happy with. But instead of overdubbing it on this track, I'm actually going to duplicate this track. So I'm going to press this button right here, and that gives me a new track with the same settings, and then I will lay my clap sound on top of that. R on the keyboard. Okay, it's time now for me to put down my kick drum, and I'm going to, once again, I'm going to duplicate this track with the same instrument, and I have already looked through and I found that I think I'll use the Deep House kit, the kick on that. It's close to the other one. It's more of a thud. Okay, so let's go. R on the keyboard to record. Q on the keyboard to quantize. Okay, time now to lay down my hi-hats, and I'm going to stick with the hats in this classic hip-hop remix kit. Yeah, so I'm just going to create a new track or duplicate this track, and I'm good to go. R on the keyboard. Okay, quantize again, Q. Okay, my final instrument is going to be my melody, R on the keyboard. So we have managed to achieve our goal, and I'll play out with the two productions from both platforms. And in our next video, there are a number of things that we're going to be covering, from arranging to effects and a range of other things. So make sure you check back in for the next episode. Don't forget, if you're finding the videos helpful, do remember to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any feedback at all on either Logic or Ableton, please make sure you drop a line in the comment section. I would definitely love to hear from you. Until next time, I'm Dr. Deuce. Peace.